Well, I ran over last time, and I probably went too far, and maybe I'll just have to edit it out because I got too specific about spice. And if you notice that the conversation kind of ended with an abrupt cut, that's because I was perhaps too explicit. So it'll be a good thing to cut. But anyway, you know, spice is about getting turned on during the day, just a little bit. And why do you do this? And how does it extend the honeymoon? Well, the thing is the man needs to express what he feels. And the woman needs to experience this expression. And again, I'm overgeneralizing, right? You can have the energy run the other way, you know. The point of spice is to recognize that during the course of the day, it's possible to warm each other up. And there's lots of varieties and ways it can be done. And as long as it's understood, you know, what the rules are, and as long as this is particularly guys need to appreciate this because we have a tendency, you know, to like to, oh boy, you know, we want to go all the way. And it's a good discipline to let that sort of situation arise and then let go of it. To be the master of it. And to appreciate the fact that the woman is available for spice, for moments of the day in which one is intensely erotic and sensual within the circumstances that allow it, and then we walk away from it. You'll be surprised what it does for the rest of the situation, the fact that heat is sort of kept going. That's why I call it extending the honeymoon. You know, after the honeymoon, it becomes a big inconvenience to go all the way every time you want to get a little bit turned on. But if, as a couple, you can learn to understand that you just get a little bit turned on during the day, and you can have these moments, you know. And it's very healthy, and it's very helpful to the dynamic of the relationship in such a way that you break through what you might call the cultural logjam that happens when the honeymoon is over and the woman feels like in order to do the rest of her being, to be who she is, she's got to constantly push the guy away. If what he does is he comes onto her a little bit and then learns to discipline his hunger. Remember, your spirit is not this hunger that lives in the soul. We'll talk about that when we get to the energy centers, what tradition calls the chakras. All right. Now let's go back to a little bit to the things I talked about before, and we'll talk about this again. But we're going to talk about them from the 4 different bodies: the ego or warmth body, the desire or astral body, the ethereal life forces body, and the physical or the material body. Now, at the surface of the physical body is the physical senses. Now, if you read Rudolf Steiner, you'll discover that there are 12 senses. For example, there's a sense of balance, and it can be legitimately called a sense. All right, and I'm not going to go into all of that, but in any event, we pretty much know the 5 senses, and we talked earlier about the significance of the skin as this huge sense organ and what it does for us. Okay. Now, the physical body is not the totality of the human being, although we live in a time where that is assumed. And at some point I'm going to have to deal with the ideas of the Darwinian evolution people because, well, hell, why not? Why don't we do it right now? Okay. I'll give you a general idea. Okay. All right. You'll see 2 curves, one descending and one rising. Okay. Now, what the biologists and what the materialists in science have spent all their time understanding and discussing, to the exclusion of anything else that they might discuss and include, is the line of ascent. That is, what's clearly obvious from the fossil record, which is the development of species and the differentiation in different species and the development ultimately that leads to the great apes and the chimps and stuff, and then some kind of interim group of beings, and ultimately you have what one biologist calls the upright ape, because of his understanding of the significance of the spine. And then you end up where? Well, you end up where the whole set of conceptions is that the only thing that exists in evolution is the physical, and therefore we're going to try to explain everything in terms of the physical. And of course it doesn't actually work, as much as people try to do that. It's like trying to force something into a box in which, there's a round peg in this square hole kind of thing. Human beings aren't just physical, and however hard you push, etc. And it's also understandable from a kind of sociological perspective why it is that science was driven so hard to do this, because they found themselves in a situation that they were developing and coming into being at a time when the Roman Catholic Church, and also then since then various Christian groups, have gone around, proclaiming that they know more than science. And scientists just kind of go, how can you say that? How can you say that dinosaurs and man walked the earth together? There's no evidence of that. We need some evidence. Give us some evidence. So all these complaints by natural scientists about religious ideas are very valid. The problem is, in a certain sense, is they're not the only religious ideas around. They're sort of the more vocal, the ones that come out and kind of want to make you think like them. But there's a lot of other ideas about all of this that aren't of that nature. And so when we look at these two lines, one of ascent and one of descent, we have the fundamental missing part, you might say. And since I brought this subject up, I'm going to be stuck with talking about it. All right. Talked about spirit, soul, and body, and I've talked about ego or warmth body, and desire or astral body, and ethereal or life forces body. And now I'm talking about evolution. Oh my God, I don't know how I got into that, but I guess it has to be because in order to really appreciate why the distinctions are being made in these videos about love, it's necessary to deal with the big boogeyman that's in the background of everybody's mind, which is, well, what about Darwinian evolution? What about all that stuff? And of course today I can't really do the whole 9 yards about it. I'm going to do a set of videos called Proof of God, in which I discuss certain books by certain authors, Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, who are sort of leaders of the New Atheists, because that's a whole big, huge separate topic. But here I'm going to, pause in a second and come back, and we'll do, we'll just do what we do.